Imagine getting on a flight just like any other normal day. You expect to sit in your seat, relax, and reach your destination safely. You expect the plane to land, people to stand up, bags to be taken down, and families to reunite. But this flight did not land. Not a single passenger was ever found. No bodies were recovered. No clear wreckage was discovered. No final message was received. The plane simply disappeared as if it was never there. Today, we're sharing the chilling story of a flight where everyone vanished without a trace. If you enjoy mystery stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more unexplained cases. It was June 17, 2009, when Skyjet Flight 307 prepared to leave Ravenport City Airport. The plane was heading toward North Elms International Airport. There were 162 people on board, including passengers and crew members. They were ordinary people with normal lives. Some were traveling for work, some for family visits, some for studies, and some simply for a short holiday. Families stood near the gates waving goodbye. Some people smiled, others looked tired or nervous. Children held toys tightly in their hands. Elderly passengers walked slowly with help from staff. Nobody knew that this goodbye would be final. The airport was calm that morning. The sun had just risen, spreading soft golden light across the runway. The weather was clear, with no storms or heavy winds reported. Everything looked normal. The airplane itself was modern and well-maintained. It had passed all safety checks and inspections. Engineers and ground staff had done their jobs carefully. There was no warning sign, no alarm, and no reason to suspect danger. Inside the plane, passengers settled into their seats. Some placed bags overhead, some put headphones on, and others opened books or phones. A few people talked quietly with seat neighbors. A young couple shared a smile. A businessman reviewed documents. A student stared out the window, lost in thought. A mother adjusted her child's seatbelt and whispered calming words. The cabin felt peaceful, but there was a strange silence, the kind that feels heavy even when nothing is wrong. Flight attendants walked through the aisle with calm smiles. They helped passengers, checked seatbelts, and gave safety instructions. Their voices were gentle and professional. Everything followed routine. The pilots in the cockpit were experienced and confident. They reviewed instruments and followed procedures as they had done hundreds of times before. For them, this flight was just another job. Soon, the plane began to move slowly on the runway. The sound of engines grew louder. Passengers felt the slight shake as the aircraft prepared for takeoff. Then, smoothly and steadily, the plane lifted into the sky. The city below became smaller and smaller. Buildings turned into dots. Roads looked like thin lines. For many passengers, this view brought excitement. For others, it brought fear. But nobody imagined that this was the last time they would ever see the ground. As the plane climbed higher, the cabin lights dimmed slightly. The seatbelt sign turned off. Some passengers relaxed and closed their eyes. Others continued reading or listening to music. Flight attendants began serving drinks and snacks. Everything felt normal. The plane moved steadily through the air, cutting through soft clouds under a blue sky. About 45 minutes into the flight, the pilot made a routine call to air traffic control. He reported that everything was fine and that the flight was on course. The controller responded normally. Nothing sounded unusual. That was the last confirmed contact with Flight 307.
Minutes later, something strange happened. The plane stopped responding. Air traffic control tried calling again. There was no answer. At first, the controllers thought it was a small communication issue. These things happen sometimes. But as time passed, worry began to grow. The plane was no longer visible on radar. It did not slowly fade or move away, it simply vanished. Inside the control room, the mood changed quickly. Technicians leaned closer to screens. Controllers spoke faster, trying different channels. Phones rang, screens blinked. A quiet panic spread through the room. This was not normal. A plane does not just disappear. Emergency procedures were started immediately. Nearby aircraft were contacted. Military and rescue teams were alerted. Search planes and helicopters were sent out. Ships moved into the area where the plane was last seen. Satellites were directed to scan the region. Every possible resource was used. News spread fast. Families waiting at North Elms International Airport began to feel something was wrong. The arrival board showed delays. Staff avoided eye contact. Whispers filled the waiting area. Eventually, officials came forward and announced that contact with Flight 307 had been lost. Shock filled the room. Some people cried, some screamed, others sat silently, unable to move. Phones were pulled out, calls were made again and again, messages were sent unanswered. Hope slowly turned into fear. Hours passed, then days. The search continued across vast areas of ocean and land. Planes flew low, scanning the water. Ships searched endlessly. Divers prepared for recovery missions, but nothing was found. No wreckage, no oil spill, no floating debris. It was as if the plane had never existed. Weeks later, something strange happened. A suitcase washed up on a remote beach hundreds of miles away from the flight path. It was damaged but mostly intact. Officials confirmed it belonged to a passenger from Flight 307. Inside were personal items, clothes, a watch, a wallet, photographs. Everything looked untouched, but the owner was nowhere to be found.
This discovery raised more questions. How did the suitcase get there? Why was it alone? If the plane crashed, where was the rest of it? Where were the passengers? Soon after, reports began to surface. Some people claimed they heard weak radio signals, strange sounds that came and went. Others said they saw a shadow of a plane flying through clouds in places far from the search area. Fishermen reported lights in the sky at night. None of these reports could be confirmed, but they added to the mystery. Investigators worked day and night. They studied radar data, weather reports, and communication logs. They questioned airport staff, engineers, and air traffic controllers. Every theory was examined carefully. One theory suggested a sudden mechanical failure. Another suggested human error. Some believed the plane may have changed direction and flown until fuel ran out. Others suspected hijacking, though no group ever claimed responsibility. There were also darker theories that went beyond normal explanations. The most important evidence, the black box, was never found. Without it, many answers remained hidden. Each possible explanation had problems. Nothing fully explained how a large plane could vanish without leaving clear evidence. Months passed, and small fragments were found on distant shores, pieces of metal, parts of seats, small items that looked like they came from a plane. Each discovery brought brief hope, then more sadness. Still, no bodies were ever recovered. Families lived in pain and uncertainty. They were stuck between hope and grief. Some refused to believe their loved ones were gone. Others slowly accepted the truth, though without answers, closure was impossible. Memorials were held, candles were lit, photos were shared, but questions never stopped. The story of Flight 307 spread around the world. News channels discussed it constantly. Experts argued on television. Online forums filled with theories. Some believed the plane was lost in a remote area of the ocean. Others believed it was hidden somewhere. Some even suggested forces beyond human understanding. Years passed, but the mystery remained alive. Every now and then, a new claim appeared, a new signal, a new sighting, a new piece of debris, but nothing ever led to a final answer. The passengers of Flight 307 became frozen in time. In the minds of loved ones, they were forever boarding that plane, forever smiling, forever unaware of what was coming. Their final moments remain unknown. Were they afraid? Did they know something was wrong? Did the plane go down suddenly, or did it fly on silently into the unknown? The disappearance of Flight 307 reminds us how fragile life can be, how even with advanced technology, some things remain beyond our control. The sky still holds secrets, and somewhere, perhaps, the truth about this flight waits to be discovered. What do you think really happened to Flight 307? Was it an accident, a failure, or something no one can explain? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more true mystery stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay with us. The mystery is still alive, and the sky is still silent.